We're probably live right now. I think we are now live. No countdown, no opening jingle. We're just getting right into it here. Saturday night, March the 4th. It's midnight on the East Coast. It's 9 o'clock where you are, Joe. How are you? How is Santa Cruz? How's the weather been? What's going on?
Yeah, man, good to be here. Great show with Alan. All is well in Santa Cruz. It's been a very rainy winter, but we had a little more rain today. We got a little more next week, but hopefully at some point it will be over. I heard tell that at least in Northern California, the drought is officially over, which is good news. So yeah, all is well. Thank you.
That's very good news. Good to hear. Good to hear for sure. We got a few fellas in the chat with us already. I say fellas because I know they're all men. I don't see any women here with us yet, but that'll likely happen soon enough. We got Mark Santucci carrying over from the last episode. Jake Dahl, welcome back. Foul Fireball, that's Jeremy. Says, Joe, I didn't get a chance to say hi at the Burbank show. Saw you once, I think, but you were busy buying at a table. Mike Double V says, nice hat, Joe. I got to say, I'll echo that sentiment for sure. Very nice hat, Joe. Where'd you pick that up?
Hey, eBay, anything's possible.
Sure. And if anyone's wondering, I think I had 12 of those hats made it's already a couple years ago, it feels like, and I don't have any more. But this is kind of interesting. I've never even announced this or told this to anyone yet, but if you go to the YouTube channel for Sports Cards Live, there's now a shop button. You can now buy Sports Cards Live t-shirts and coffee mugs. That's it. That's all I've put in the store so far. But it's kind of I don't know, kind of funny, kind of cool. Check it out if you're interested. That's now an option. Name is here. What's going on, Name? Good to see you. Good to see you. Jeremy's back. What's up, Jeremy? Says, yo, Joe. Yo, Joe. Oh, look, Underdog carried over from the last one. Thanks for checking it out, Underdog Collectibles. Good to see you. Good to see you. So, Joe, I mean, listen, we're going to freestyle here. We don't really have, we talked and said, okay, well, here, this is cool. We were both at the Burbank show, version 1, back in August of last year. And we were both at the Burbank show last month, this year. We were also both at the Mint Collective last year at the end of March. We're also both going to be at the Mint Collective this year at the end of this March. So you said, hey, we could do like backwards and forwards kind of theme sort of thing. I thought that was an interesting way to put it. But, Burbank shows, both were excellent, both exceeded expectations. But you weren't there. I don't think you've talked about it publicly yourself. I have a bit, but what were some of your thoughts on the Burbank show that we were both just at a few weeks ago, and maybe versus the first Burbank show? And I'm curious, before you start on that, Joe, I want to ask the chat. We got over 30 people in here right now. Were any of you guys at the Burbank show? And if you were, please feel free to chime in on what Joe's about to say and myself after.
Yeah.
Over to you.
Thanks. Yeah, like you said, we were there in the summer, and that was super fun. The venue in actual Burbank, as opposed to Ontario, was a little smaller, and the hotel there was. I liked how collectors spread out. I liked how it was sort of inhabited with different trade nights, and there was the various spots there that. The Kobe collection, all of that, and then they wanted to amplify it. They wanted to kick it up a notch or two. And it felt pretty seamless to me. It felt like sort of just the right next step, moving it over there to Ontario, which for me was super convenient, just to fly right into the Ontario airport, take a quick Uber into the hotel. And, from there, it was just kind of like a paradise of, collecting and collectors and connecting with people. The VIP night was, as you would expect, like a little more low key, and you get to take a look at the wares and various things going on. And then by the time Saturday rolled on, it was all that you could imagine in terms of capacity. So EJ, Rob, all those guys did a fantastic job, I think, of opening it up. And it seems like that's where they're headed towards next, with the Anaheim show in late August coming around the mountain here. So it was fantastic. Nothing but praise.
Yeah. Oh, same here. I enjoyed both shows immensely. You know what? I'm a little rusty. I think it's been like 3 months since I've done an after hours episode with a guest. It might even be longer. And one of the things that we used to do, which I want to do now too, is kind of go over the episode that just happened.
Yeah.
And get because you watched it. I saw you in the chat. I believe you even were aware that I went frozen about 4 times, which I got to look into that. But let's take a step back from the Burbank show and the Mint, and just kind of get your thoughts on. First of all, it was Alan Teruel from he's got his tool Waxstat. He was at the Tops conference. I thought we had a pretty good discussion when I was able to be there for it and not frozen. But any takeaways or highlights or anything that stuck out to you as, something new or something exciting or something the opposite of those? Anything at all, Joe?
Yeah, well, first of all, Alan is an incredibly gracious and pleasant human. I met him at the Mint in Vegas last year. Didn't really know actually about his hobby origins. I'm not sure I even realized he was from the Bay Area originally. We like a lot of the same teams, so that was cool to gain that insight. But I do remember him just being incredibly friendly and curious. So what I liked about his story was the way he gathered information was directly from the dealers or people in the industry to find out what exactly would be helpful for them, which is a great way to go. Ask questions, be curious, see how people are understanding the needs that they have in terms of the spaces, whether that's breakers or collectors. And a couple other things. One, just he kept mentioning that we really are in the early stages of how technology can help and support the hobby. And I think we've all probably been in that position where, had we had more information or a better tool, we might have saved ourselves some cash. And I think now more than ever, it's important to really feel like you're making your hobby dollars count. So that's going to help everybody in the collecting space to want to stick around, right? Like what causes people to leave is feeling like they may have gotten a bum deal or something like that. And I think Alan is very much interested in bringing information to people so that they can make informed choices. And I think that's kind of what I took away from him, was just he's invested in that both on a personal level and on a tech level, on a collecting level. And it was great to see the passion.
Yeah, one thing that he said, first of all, thanks for your recap. One thing that he said that I really liked was when he said, and I'll try to say this the way he said, but he said, I have a black belt in taking extremely complex problems and making them extremely simple. Like every company, every business needs somebody like that to just help get rid of all the debt that's lying in different corners of their company, whether it's tech debt or other debt. It's I thought that was a really neat way of saying it, and he says it confidently, which makes me believe that he can do it. Not only that he says it confidently, but I mean, he obviously walks the walk. I mean, I was really impressed with how supportive the chat was. People that are using his product, like I didn't know that he had, that it was that successful already. It seems like it's so new. So I learned that today, which was really cool. So, like you said, super nice guy, super humble, easy to talk to. Just a great guy to be. I think we're blessed to have him in the hobby, and he'll be bringing some innovation to the table. He already is, and he'll be bringing more. It seems like. I can only imagine how many good ideas he's got floating around in his head. So pretty cool stuff. All right. Do a couple more comments here. Nick Martelli says, double dip on a Saturday. Yeah, we're double dipping on Sports Cards Live tonight. Todd McDonald. Good. Those hats need to be at Expo. Oh man, I don't know if I can get that. Those hats. The Sports Cards Live logo is actually like But it's sewn right in there. It's stitched in, actually.
Yeah.
So it's show the inside of it. Show the back of it, like the there, like it's stitched right in. They were really well made. Maybe I see if I can order a few more and get them. I gotta say, they were not cheap for me to get them though. But
have you thought about doing a Sports Cards Live on site somewhere, like maybe at the Mint, or just a quick 45-minute Sports Cards Live and from the Mint or wherever, maybe the Expo?
I haven't. I've participated in different podcasts. I've participated on panels. I've moderated and sat on panels at both events. I've moderated, at both events. And then at the Mint Collective and at the National Collectable, one of my partners on my Collectable live show, they've hosted a podcast studio and given out slots. And I've had slots at those events. So I've done it there. But to me, Sports Cards Live, I've done a couple on the road shows from hotel rooms, but I don't know. I honestly, when I'm at the Expo, I want to spend as much time as I can at my booth and at other booths shopping for cards and dealing with cards than doing content. So you very rarely see me at a card show with my camera out, really doing that kind of thing. But you never know. You never know, Joe. You just never know. Mookie says, love the Allen chat. Happy you're sticking around late. You bet, Mookie Chilson. Good to see you. Jeremy says, good evening, gentlemen. Thanks for doing the after hour show. Hey, thank you. Jeff McMahon, good to see you again. Good to see. I think he's saying good to see Joe on the show. Mark says, I know Joe likes baseball, not hockey. Joe roots for the A's, correct?
I am an A's fan, even if they move, which is on the table at this point. Oakland is having some challenges, but I also like the Giants as well. But yeah, grew up an A's fan.
Well, my first love of a sports franchise moved in 1996 from Winnipeg to Phoenix, Arizona, and I was heartbroken, dude. Like literally, me and three of my buddies went to the very last game ever at the Winnipeg Arena. Happened to be a playoff game on my birthday. It was the last game ever, and against the Detroit Red Wings. We all sat in those stands for at least an hour after the game was over. I remember we had tears in our eyes. We were diehard fans of a team that was always an underdog, never won. And it's sad when your team leaves. And they go down to Phoenix, become the Phoenix Coyotes. I couldn't cheer for them there. It just didn't feel the same. So I don't know how, when you say you'll be a fan of them wherever they go, I hope you can be. I hope that works out for you. It didn't for me in the world of hockey. Maybe it would be easier in the world of baseball. I don't know. What do you think?
We'll see. Yeah, I think the proof is in the pudding, right? I had a similar experience because the Raiders moved to LA. I think it was around 82 or something. And that was kind of heartbreaking for me as a kid, sort of still at that point. So yeah, we'll see what happens. I ended up jumping over to the 49ers at that point, and then the Raiders came back, and now they're in Vegas, and now they're talking about the A's maybe going to Vegas. So we'll see.
They come in, they go, they come back, they go. Like, that's just playing at your heartstrings. That's not very nice. Like, that's tough, man. Tough.
Yeah, I mean, it's strangely the colors of the team, right? And that can bring, I guess, your nostalgia for the whole franchise and maybe previous memories gone by. So I don't know if your team kept the same colors that they had previously, but silver and black, the A's, green and gold, it does something to you. But yeah,
it does. For sure that would. And you know what? When the Winnipeg Jets moved and became the Phoenix Coyotes, if they were called the Phoenix Jets, maybe that would have helped me stick around. But then when Winnipeg got a new, so it's funny, Winnipeg got another hockey team in 2011, but the team moved from Atlanta to win. The Atlanta Thrashers moved and became the Winnipeg Jets. And there was a big, what are they going to call them? What are they going to call them? Can they call them the Jets? Because the Phoenix Coyotes maybe owned that name. That was their legacy. Somehow the new ownership in Winnipeg was able to call them the Winnipeg Jets. And I became a fan of them until I wasn't really, they're my second team, but I cheer for my hometown Calgary Flames now. Anyway, hey, thanks, Mark. Thanks for that comment. Thank you. T-Dot says, great show, past hour. Appreciate that, T-Dot. Northern Lights Entertainment says, it's Glenn in Winnipeg. I'm headed to Mint Collective. Would like your input. Is there a trade night? Will you be there? Is it worth attending as a collector? Great content as usual, buddy. Well, thank you so much, Glenn. Yes, I will be there. Yes, it's worth attending as a collector. It's not a B2B event as it was maybe more so last year. This year, it's meant to be a lot more B2C. You're going to see an increased focus on the marketplace, i.e. the card show, more square footage, more vendors, and no competing events at the same time like breakout rooms and presentations and panel discussions. Those are only happening on Friday as part of a higher tiered ticket, but you're welcome to go check out mintcollective.com. I'm sure you're doing that, Glenn, but yeah, that's awesome that you're headed there. Yeah, make sure you say hello to me, man. Come grab me, say hi. Look forward to seeing you. And Joe will be there too, so say hi to Joe too. T-Dot says, your Winnipeg leaving story is like when they announced Gretzky was being traded to the Kings in '88. Man, T-Dot, I cried. I remember being in my rec room in my parents' house in the basement when they announced that. Gretzky's crying on TV. I hated the Oilers, but I still cried because Gretzky was like
leaving Canada.
He was a national treasure. Gretzky was so important. You couldn't believe they would trade Gretzky.
Yeah.
It was nuts. Absolutely nuts. Northern Light says, I live a block from where the old Winnipeg Arena stood. You wouldn't recognize the area. Now I've been back. I still have a lot of family in Winnipeg. So I ate at the PF Chang's last September, Glenn. I ate at PF Chang's last September, which is probably exactly where the old Winnipeg Arena was. Yankees fan says, thanks for another show. Time for a new shirt to support the show at card shows. Well, I mentioned Yankees fan. There are Sports Cards Live shirts available on the YouTube channel, or you can go to, forget the website, but it's one of these. Here's what happened. Joe, I'm going to tell you this story and tell for everybody who's watching as well. So here's what happened. I got an email unsolicited from a guy named Evan from a company called Fourth Wall. So if you go Google Fourth Wall, like Fourth Wall clothing or swag or whatever it is. So at first I was like, nah, I get emails like this all the time. And then I'm like, well, wait a second. I've had people ask me for t-shirts before, so I'll look at it. So I went to the website, and in like 2 hours, I built out a Sports Cards Live store. Only has 6 items listed, but it's still, I had to design them and pick colors and design the web page that the store looks like. And anyway, it's out there now. I'm going to show you guys. Is that, Joe, do you mind if I just kind of share my screen and
Nope.
show this website? Because I don't know, it's kind of funny. I hope nobody thinks it's silly, but if you do, that's okay too. But here we go. I'm just going to do a quick screen share, and let me just bring it up here. All right. So now I had to be bold, and you'll notice you're going to see the shirt in the middle has a part of the Sports Cards Live branding on it. So there you go. This is here. So this is the SCL Basic Tee, which is $22. Then you've got across here, you got the SCL Basic Comfort Tee at $24. So it's a bit of a higher quality. And then I took this basic tee and I put the J Lee face on there. So if these sell 0, that's okay. I don't really care either way. If one person buys it, it's kind of funny. Well, it is what it is. And then we've got, again, the comfort tee with the face, and then a fancy mug, and then a fancier mug. Those are just the names I came up with for them. So $12 for the fancy, $14 for the fancier. Of course, there's tax and shipping, which like doubles the cost at least, I'm sure. So, but the website is sports-cards-live-shop.fourthwall.com, or you can just write on the YouTube channel. There's now a shop menu, which will take you right to this stuff as well. So there you, and here's what's cool, Joe. If you go in, I got to pick these colors, and I kind of picked ones that I thought I'd wear. I picked purple. Why not? White. I'm not crazy about the white. I'm sure it doesn't last long, but I like this one. This one's called Cardinal. I like that. I like that color of a shirt. and then just a darker sort of gray, or what they call heather navy. So, hey, we'll see. That's what you got. And then I'll just go back, show you guys this one again. This is kind of tongue in cheek, kind of meant to be funny, a little gimmicky, but there you go. You've seen this face. It's on the thumbnail for this episode we're on right now. So if anybody wants to wear another man's face on their t-shirt, you now have that opportunity to. What do you think, Joe? What do you think?
Oh, I mean, I think this is, just the natural progression of a successful YouTube channel, and it's just getting started.
We're almost 3 years in, but sure, we're just getting started. I mean, it's you know what? If nothing else, there literally have been people have said, "Hey, do you have any t-shirts?" And I've said, "Well, I had some, but I don't have any now, and I was having to ship them out." These guys do it all. There's no inventory. I don't have to buy inventory. They just sell it, and that's it.
Yep.
So it's just pretty easy for sure. So there you go, Yankees fan. Thanks for reminding me that I built that store like late one night, middle of the week back, maybe on like Monday or Tuesday night last week. Mark says trade shows are always worth going to. That's in response to Glenn, Northern Lights, about coming to Mint Collective. And I'm going to agree with Mark here. But it's a trade, Mint Collective, the National, the Expo, Burbank. These are all trade shows. But when I think of a trade show, Joe, from most industries and industries that I've worked in, yeah, there are after hours events in that, but not like in the hobby. It's different. There's a camaraderie in our hobby that I think it sort of stands alone from anything I've ever seen in any other sort of subculture. And you've been coming to, we chum around at shows now for a couple of years. How do you feel about it? Similar to the way I do?
Yeah, I mean, it really is. It brings me back to your reluctance to necessarily do sports cards live when you are actually live in the real world with fellow collectors. And the cool thing about Burbank, or even back at the Mint, is just bringing into real life a lot of relationships that you've had either through YouTube or virtual world, Clubhouse, whatever it is. Just really connecting with these humans that in some instances you've had pretty deep conversations with, and certainly a lot of hobby discussions with. So that's for me, like I remember, I was the Mint, collective there in the MGM, you get to know the restaurants, right? And you have the little food courts, and, you're to and from your hotel room, this, that, and the other. At any given moment, I'd be walking to and from just like the actual show space back, and come across what I would consider like hobby luminaries. I mean, it's like, holy moly, it's Chris McGill and Josh Johnson and Christina, eating pizza at the food court, sit down and have a conversation with them. Or, Carvin Chung, out in the hallway. Oh, hey, Carvin Chung, certainly gotten to know him on your show and on Clubhouse and whatnot. But meeting people like that in real life is really exciting, because they know a lot, and they're great people, and they're fun to hang out with. So you just kind of establish and go a little deeper with the real-time connections.
Yeah, it's just what I love about it is all, and I think I put it on a reel or something recently that, National is the hobby mecca. If you're wondering if you should go, the answer is just yes. Like if you like the hobby or even love it, then I think the answer is yes, go, because I find that, it's a way to immerse more in it. And like you said, you're going to see people that, maybe some people you watch or listen to, which can be cool. It's cool for me to meet people that I watch and listen to, but it's that camaraderie and just the fact that we have our love of cardboard in common. So you have, listen, there's a lot of drama in the hobby. There are cliques in the hobby. Not everybody loves each other. It's not a big love fest here in the hobby, but there's enough people that you're going to find somebody that you have a similar values and similar interests within the hobby. And you're going to be able to it's like Rob Gerard, the sports card therapist, says, find your wolf pack. And, that can be intimidating at times to think, especially if you're an introvert, if you are not used to having a lot of friends, and maybe you don't, you have some social anxiety, which I think a lot of people do. It could be intimidating, but I would encourage anyone who fits those molds, any of those sorts of things, find a way to just get there and, just ask questions, talk to people, talk to vendors, approach people if you're able to. And I think you'll have a good time, because I find that a lot of people in the hobby are really welcoming and want to be inclusive. And I like to preach being inclusive. I think it's important that we don't make anybody feel left out. I don't care if they're 12 years old or 82 years old or anywhere in between. Whatever gender, race, color of your skin, whatever religious garment you might be wearing at a card show or anywhere. Like, let's look all past all these things and look through to the fact that we like cardboard. It sounds so silly. You know how much cardboard I throw out? I recycle every day from like Amazon deliveries. Not that kind of cardboard. Cardboard with pictures of famous newscasters on them, like Ron Burgundy. That's what I mean. That kind of cardboard.
Yeah. No, I mean, it was cool. I mean, just getting back to Burbank for a second. I mean, FD, with rolling with FD, ran into him and his kid. He's always so warm and gracious. We catch up. I met two people actually that I had sort of seen in the world. I think once on your show, Andy, the guy that actually did the poster, right, for and does the sort of custom made cards. Andy Reid, is it?
Andy Friedman,
right?
Yeah, he's a tops artist. He did a top spotlight whole set, and he's been setting up. But he was at the Mint Collective last year. He was at the Vegas, the Beckett Industry Summit card show and summit. He's been setting up, selling the original piece, well, among other things, the original art that Topps used for cards that bear his name on the box. Pretty cool. But yeah, please, sorry, continue.
Yeah, no, I mean, there we were, like, I think it was after either the Thursday or the Friday night, kind of hanging out in the DoubleTree, bar area or whatever it was. And I think it was Andy and Sharon of Black Jaded Wolf. And, they were hanging out, and they kind of came over and said hello to us. And, I started like remembering some of the things that Andy had shown on your show, I think. And then the next day I went up to his table and just took a deep dive into his art and really got to know what inspired him, how he selects the different cards that he uses as, to kind of riff off of in his own artistic way. And then Sharon too, she's super knowledgeable, super nice. I almost did a transaction with her, but just learning about her journey and kind of how she approaches the hobby and, in the space, a mostly, male dominated space. It's pretty cool to see her out there and kind of understand, what she brings to the table in terms of expertise and knowledge. So really those are the most exciting parts of shows to me, is just kind of getting in to meet some human beings that really have some depth to them and range in their expertise, and are just like super cool people too.
Yeah. You mentioned Sharon, Black Jaded Wolf. I mean, she's sort of a legend on the card show circuit because she's just been around for so long, and she's a woman. I mean, that's something that's makes her unique to most of the vendors, I guess you could say. And if anyone, isn't aware of her, she's been doing this series on the Lucas Tigers Bronze podcast, really called Black Jaded Wolf Unleashed or Uncaged or something like that. Uncaged, maybe, to tie into Caged Lawyer. But yeah, I recommend, I've only listened to one of those episodes so far, and I really enjoyed it, but I recommend checking those out if anyone wants to learn more, or you're not familiar with Sharon, who Joe was referring to. Talking about going to card shows, Eric says what's intimidating is when you try to bro hug a 7-foot giant at the Expo. Just saying, I'm not 7 foot tall, Eric. I'm 6'6", a hair under 6'6", actually, but you're also a hair under 5 foot. Is that right, Eric? About a hair under 5 foot? Just bugging you, buddy.
Maybe he was thinking of 610 sports cards. That's another super cool dude. His
Justin.
name's Justin, right? Justin 610. I probably spent more time talking to Justin than anybody else, just because, you know, he's got really awesome cards, and it took a little while for us to kind of get to know each other, but over time, I think he realized, like, oh, you know, Joe, he's a pretty nice guy, and he started to share more and more. Probably would have appreciated if I actually bought something from him, but yeah, he was cool. 610 too.
Yeah, he's a big boy for sure. I did a huge trade with him at the National in Atlantic City last year. But just speaking about Justin for a second, he's somebody that because he's memorable because he is so tall. I've seen him at the National going back to as far as I can remember, but at least as far as 2011, 2012. I mean, I started going in 2007. I think it was 2007, maybe 2006. And I don't know that I saw him that far back, but I mean, Justin's been someone that I've been aware of in the hobby just because of how big he is, going back at least 10 years. So the fact that he's there and now, and I'm buddies with him, the fact that you got to chat with him, the hobby it's bigger than we think, but it's also small. It's small for those people who are like actively immersed in it. But there's so many people who are not actively immersed in it, like social media, going to shows, but they just do collect a lot of cards kind of alone, kind of in like as a solitary activity without communicating with really anybody about it. And I learned when I really realized that, Joe, you probably heard me say this. I said it when I came back from my Christmas vacation in Arizona, and I went to have supper at my cousin who lives there, and her husband were hanging out. He's like, we started talking, and I met him a couple times before, but he says, yeah, I have a ton of cards. I'm like, what? Really? He's like, yeah, come on back. I'll show you. Piles and piles and piles. Unopened product, open product. He didn't have it very well organized, but tons and tons of like modern and recent stuff. It was pretty crazy, actually, that this guy who I'm related to or through marriage is a huge card collector and has no presence online in the hobby.
Yep.
So I thought that was interesting. Okay, let's keep going here. T-Dot says, good point, as I believe many collectors are introverted by nature. Yeah, Mookie says, well said. All are welcome in the hobby. Yes, agree. T-Dot says, it almost doesn't make sense that a Mantle PSA 10 piece of cardboard could be exchanged for $25 million US. Well, I'll tell you one thing. A 52 tops Mantle is way rarer than any US currency. So maybe it's just a scarcity thing, T-Dot. Of course, I'm just kidding on that. That doesn't make any sense. Eric says I'm 5'8", and my mom says I'm average height. I don't know. Is that average nowadays? I don't know. But hey, Eric, you stand tall in my eyes, buddy. You stand tall in my eyes. Foul Fireball Jeremy says, I'm very intimidated at the show and trade night. I only saw two people I knew at Burbank, Jeremy and Joe. Well, glad I remember seeing you there, Jeremy, of course. And hey, I'm glad that I could be one of those people. And how about you, Joe?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think I recognize more people than know me. So I typically have to do a little bit of introduction and sort of, find a point of connection. And sometimes it's as simple as just letting someone know you know something about them, or you have some insight. But yeah, there was from the previous Burbank show enough familiar faces where sometimes it was, people that I'd done deals with. I kind of circled back to and sort of said, hey, I really appreciated the deal we got done at the last Burbank. And what's your name again? Because, it's hard to hold on to names. So you just got to be a little gracious, and generally speaking, people do remember you, but then they need, like, what was that card again? Like, what was our deal? Oh, and then it all comes back to them, right? It's a lot of information, a lot of cards, and a lot of deals. And I tell you that the people that are on the circuit, the dealers that are on the circuit, I'm very impressed with them, like the amount of information and the ongoing, pivots that they have to make as sort of business people who are forever having to like understand the comps and understand what they have into something, and want to make transactions, want to kind of have a customer experience that maybe will have a return customer. Like there's a lot of impressive people out there in the card world, and yeah, just kind of learning how they work, and the ways in which it's kind of like private business ownership.
It really is. I mean, that's what a lot of these dealers are doing to pay the rent, feed themselves, put gas in their car, travel to shows. It's a business. It's a without negative, with void of negative connotation. It's a hustle. They're hustling. They're grinding. I respect that level of grind and hustle when they're doing it all above board and being honest people. I can get behind that. And again, the thing that I think is often overlooked when the hobby criticizes the flipper is that these people are doing a service in a lot of ways. And I was listening to a podcast the other day where the person, I forget who it was saying that, they were buying cards in wherever it was, Shipshewana, and selling them in Detroit and getting good deals on Detroit cards that they couldn't, that weren't easy sales in, say, Philadelphia, but then they can take them to Detroit and make, gain that arbitrage. So yes, they're making money, which they need to. They're doing this to sustain themselves, but they're also bringing cards to people who want them. And I always appreciate that personally. I think that's a good thing. But I know some people like to kind of come down on the so-called flipper, and I think there are some maybe who don't go about it with good intentions. But for those that do, I think they're an important part of the ecosystem.
Yeah, I mean, it gets back to the old. Remember in the old Beckett magazines when they would talk about regional pricing? Some of these may be more in your particular area, and when you do have people traveling from all over the country, you got people from Boston, they're going to be bringing back some Celtics cards from LA because they're probably going to have some access to some cards that, would have already dried up in Boston just because the Celtics are a pretty popular franchise in the Boston area. So that kind of movement, I think that's exciting. And yeah, some premium. I mean, who's going to begrudge somebody that's grinding to make a little profit?
Yeah, no, I think it's fair. I think it's fair. This is kind of off topic, but something else I've been seeing a lot of Instagram stories about are people making comments like, kidding or being sarcastic, like paying strong, paying 60% of comps, or paying strong, paying 70% of comps. And I think there's a narrative out there that is not good or whatever. So when I look at at people who are buying inventory and they're stating what the percent of comp is that they're willing to pay, I think to myself, I kind of come back and I think, well, listen, if I'm going to sell a card myself, kind of the quick and easy way, which is maybe just eBay. If you're not going to send your cards to PWCC, which I've done, I think is a good way to do it, or ComC or one of these others. If you're going to sell it on eBay yourself, you're going to pay, I think it's like 13%.
Yep.
So when a seller says they're going to sell it for, say, 70% of comps, well, I don't compare that to 100. I compare that to, say, 87.
Right.
So now I'm taking a 17% hit in order to not do any of the work and get quick cash. Is that a fair margin for the buyer or that flipper, that dealer? I personally think it is. I think it's fair. I have no issue with that. That's at 70% of comps. But of course, I actually don't sell on eBay. So it's not like I'm going to do that. Can I earn the whole 100% myself if I set up at a card show, in which case maybe 70 is like, well, that doesn't work for me. But if you don't set up a card shows and you don't incur the travel expense, the booth rental expense, the showcase rental expense, if you don't own your own showcases, that's another form of overhead or fees that are kind of similar to the eBay fees, because eBay is providing you with the audience, just like a card show provides you with the audience. You pay fees on both of them. So sorry, a total tangent. Wasn't expecting to get into that, but a thought I've had recently. Any comments on that, Joe?
I 100% agree with you. It factor in as well the ways that eBay transactions can go a little squirrely. I mean, for every maybe 5 transactions that I might have, and I'm not a big seller, but I'll move some cards on eBay. At least one of them, something happens. Either it's a non-paying bidder or somebody wants to return it. Which is all fair, but it does eat into your time, and it's a little frustrating. So to have something clean and easy, that's the difference between 70% and 87%, it almost starts to become negligible, especially if it's just, I mean, time is money, and not having to have the red tape and, have something hanging over your head. And, I mean, I don't want to, I'm not trying to evade, our glorious infrastructures and Uncle Sam, or I don't know what call him in Canada, but the tax person. It's like these transactions that happen outside of these platforms. They're a little more seamless. They're a little more direct, and that has a benefit as well.
Yeah, for sure. John Wee says being tall is a blessing and a curse. And I mean, I know John is with Center Stage.
Love Center Stage. Center Stage is awesome. It's so helpful, John. Thank you for your gift to the hobby.
Yeah, and it is. Hey, let's shout it out right now, because he is a sponsor. Center Stage is a sponsor, Sports Cards Live, and you can. Let's take a minute, and I don't do this often enough. It's just like thank the sponsors who do support Sports Cards Live, and have I think John and Center Stage has been a sponsor of SCL now for, I think we're coming up on a year, John. Maybe we're at 11 or 12 months now. So I want to thank you for your ongoing support. And with that, I want to ask the audience to download the app in the App Store and Google Play. It's on the ticker right now, Center Stage. This is that's what the app looks like. That's yellow inside of white right there, right on my shirt. I happen to wear it tonight. So yeah, please download the app and give it a shot. Check it out, and give it a chance, because it'll pick up the card that you're looking to get a value on, and they're adding new features all the time. So support John, and if you know John, he's a super nice guy, and just a good dude to have in the hobby. Similar to Al, who we had on earlier tonight on the show with Waxstat. Like, there's a lot of these guys that are just they love the hobby, and they're smart, and they're looking to add innovation. And Center Stage is a great example of that, as well as I want to shout out again, because this is a new sponsor for the show as of tonight. Veriswap. Raymond Lee is the founder's name. He was on an episode with us on Sports Cards Live, I believe in December. You can go back and watch and get to know Raymond a little bit from that episode. And again, download their app, the Veriswap app, and follow them on Instagram. They do a lot of cool Instagram story post, like, who won the trade kind of stuff. So please download both of these apps, Veriswap and Center Stage, and help support, if you don't mind. It's an ask. I'm asking you, help support these innovators in our hobby who are supporting what Sports Cards Live is doing. And John is tall as well, so I don't know. You might want to hold that against him. I don't know. All right, let's do some more comments here. Tita says it also depends how tall you are horizontally. All right. He's addicted to 80s O-Pee-Chee hockey. I understand that. Jeremy, Foul Five Ball, says there was one dealer who remembered me from the first show, and our hotel rooms were right next to each other. That's kind of neat. It's always nice to be, let's face it, being recognized is like, means you might have stuck out to somebody. They remember you. So it's always nice to be remembered. Jay, yeah, it's as simple as that. Flipping provides liquidity, and liquidity is something that kind of makes the world go round. I mean, transactional volume is important in any industry, and it's important in the hobby. And flippers are really helping to facilitate. Number one, they're doing it themselves, but they're also facilitating more of it, I find, because they're moving cards around, even within a show and between shows. And, it's just, it's not like it's new, guys. And I know my audience, I believe, is sophisticated enough to know this, that it's not a new thing. But if anyone, doesn't recognize that, There's been people buying and selling sports cards, I'm aware of since at least as long ago as the 70s, and probably, I'm sure earlier, Eric says, amen. I'm not sure to what, but maybe to the comment above it, but good to see you, Eric. Mark says, Joe is correct 100% about selling in the home team market. Yeah, no doubt. Nick says, that's a great point, Joe. Regional pricing is something people have ignored as of late with comps, at least what I've dealt with. Yes, agree. Nick goes on to say, I've had to explain my regional premium and people look at me like I'm nuts. And the thing, I think the challenge Nick might be having and other people have with selling at regional premiums is that buyer, some of those buyers, not all, some of those buyers are going to say, well, I can just go on eBay and buy it. Or I can go on PWCC and buy it. Or I can go on ComC and buy it. That's true too, but not everybody uses those platforms. They just don't. So, but in any event, I think it's something that's worth explaining, and I think it's justifiable as well. T-Dot says, you're right. Time is money. It depends on your economies of scale, right? In terms of how much you're going to pay someone to sell for you, right? Or to buy off you. Well, why don't you tell, if you're willing to, Joe, you have a story where you sold some cards at Burbank for less than you could have sold them for yourself if you were a vendor. But I remember we chatted about it at Burbank. I said, but Joe, the offer is more than fair, because if you go sell it yourself on eBay or PWCC, you're going to spend X amount on fees, and you're going to spend your time in the hassle, and they're charging you, I forget what it was, or they paid you, say, 75%. So maybe you're you're losing 12% for convenience.
Yeah.
I mean, time is money, right?
Well,
as T-Dot says.
Totally. Yeah, no, I'd be happy to sort of share that story. So I didn't even really think too much about, I've been collecting a long time, and like you, Jeremy, there's just things that I find in my collection that I'm almost like, oh yeah, I wanted this at some point, or somehow I acquired this. I don't even remember how, but it's not as important to me. So I bandied up a bunch of those kinds of cards, and brought them down to Ontario. And the idea really is just, if you see an opportunity that is too good to pass up, you want to be able to pounce on it. And in a somewhat cash tight environment in my own life, it's like I felt the need to sort of like, let's get some play money. And it's not play money, it's real money, but it's money that if you generate it from your collection, it doesn't feel like it's coming out of like your overall expenses, your life expenses. So I had maybe like a stack of cards, maybe 25. And I think it was Friday morning at Burbank. And, obviously Burbank Sports Cards is the host. And I'm friends with Ryan and Rob, and, been in their shop before. And I like how they do business because it's simple and it's fair. You're not getting a windfall necessarily, but you're also not getting taken to the cleaners. So they're trustable to me. And so I just, sat down there early Friday morning with Ryan, and, he just kind of moves through, and, maybe one or two of the cards, I said, you know what, I think this one might be worth a little bit more. Let me tell you why. He took another pass at it. He uses the different data apps, and he's like, yeah, okay, I can go 20 higher on this. I see what you're saying. Because, they're drawing comps, and they do this all day, every day. And, they're not averse to you giving some degree of pushback. So, all things considered, you get counted out, you get cash, and then you're on the showroom floor with a ton of opportunities with some cash in your pocket for cards that, there's a few that I miss. In hindsight, it's like, oh, maybe I should have held on to that. For the most part, I'm not even going to remember what those cards were. And then you get to at least feel like you can take advantage of all the opportunities on a showroom floor of a major card show, which in and of itself is fun to feel like you're kind of locked and loaded to do some transactions. So, I picked up, I did not exhaust the funds, which, in and of itself, is fine, because it basically helped me afford, hotel, plane ticket, and have a real life experience. But I did get a few cards in exchange. I don't know if this would be a good time to show them. Just two.
Yeah, let's see them.
Yeah, well, one was this is kind of getting back to Alan being Bay Area fan, but this was one, this Jerry Rice 1-in-1. This is numbered to 3 on card auto, and just a kind of cool card. I'm a big, Niners fan. Jerry Rice got 11. And then the other one was this Curry soul of the game or piece of the shoe card from National Treasures, I think 2015. A little multicolored, numbered. So Curry, Rice, two Bay Area goats for sure, and just goats in any city, any province. So those kind of emerged out of liquidating some cards, and then I was very close to some other deals that didn't quite come through, but that's how it goes. I was looking at a Bill Russell. I think you were there at the table. I was kind of trying to see if I felt comfortable with a Bill Russell card that maybe was a little higher than I wanted to pay. And at that point you get discerning with whether or not it's a go. Actually, Sharon had a cool Kawhi Leonard card, kind of a flawless on card auto 1-of-1 that I liked, and Kawhi in a Raptors uniform for all the Canadian fans out there. And then there was another card. Oh, there was a 48 leaf Larry Doby. And I mean, that's a short print. It's a card I've always wanted to own. I was a big Larry Doby collector for a while, and the guy just wouldn't come down under a pretty sizable price. Understandably, it's a tough card to locate. He said, tell me if you can find a single one of these in this whole room, let me know. You won't. And it was true. It's a tough card to find, like the satchel of that same year. But anyway, it was just cool to feel like you could have conversations and maybe find your way into a card. But you stay prudent, stay discerning in your approaches, and walk away with a couple that definitely will stay in the PC. So.
For sure. And I think those are both beautiful cards. When you showed me the Jerry Rice auto, I loved it. I think that is a beautiful, beautiful card. I don't think I got a great look at the Steph when we were there. I think you must have grabbed that on your way out, or when did you grab that?
It was the last day. Yeah, it was the last day. And a guy that knew me as a Warriors fan, a big Warriors fan, and he did a very nice deal for the card, because he knew it was a PC, not a flip.
Yeah, that's cool. That's nice. Yeah. Hey man, listen, you had the real life experience and you came out with 2 nice cards. Like you don't need, I don't know. I love getting home from a big card show like the National of the Expo and coming home with a stack of new cards, but it doesn't have to be that way. You can come home with a couple and it can still have been all worthwhile. And you just said you came home with a few extra bucks in your pocket.
Yeah.
That can go back into the card fund for the Mint Collective or the next show you go to as well.
Exactly.
Where you'll see many of the same dealers who will have some of the same, but a lot of different inventory again as well, because they don't stop. A lot of these dealers, they don't just wait till the next card show. They're busy doing deals all the time on many different platforms. So that's pretty cool. Let's go to a comment here from John. Says from Center Stage, says thank you for the kind words. Lots of new features coming out soon, and hopefully helps the hobby more and more. Well, that's John from Center Stage again. Please go download their app in the Apple Store or the Google Play stores and follow them on Instagram at Center Stage HQ. You can see that there on the ticker right now. Jay, I really like this comment from Jay. He says, comps is simple statement at... Okay, I'm just going to read it. Comps is simple statement at considering value, a starting point for a relative value discussion. I will stay above or below that line depending on what I believe about the card. Like I like that, because me too, a comp is not the gospel. It is not the law. A comp is just a data point that may or may not be a very good one. Some are very good. Some are bad. Some are not indicative of a card's value, and that can unfortunately will have an impact on the next comp that might be considered a good one because it was on a large marketplace. It ended at a good time. The description was written well. It has good images. So you have to look deeper into comps. I have a reel on my Instagram from yesterday, I think, about that. I called the truth about comps, which is really, and it was with Brian from REA Auctions, who basically did most of the talking on that and explained what you have to do when it comes to comps. So have a look at that. And anyway, it was pretty interesting. Go ahead, Joe.
Well, I mean, especially I know you collect a fair amount of vintage, so it's really hard to comp vintage. But getting back to that Larry Doby Leaf card, I mean, the card that I was comping it with was a far inferior card, and it was a significantly less price. And the dealer had every right to say this is a superior card, even though in the land of just sort of reckoning, you would think it should have been lower. It just doesn't work that way. I mean, remember your Maze and the first Burbank card? You paid a premium for that because it was by far, not everything's gone off to PWCC to have the 15% eye appeal. Sometimes they're just out there in the wild, and you have to use your own expertise, your own eye, and your own sensibilities about what you personally value. And I think sellers have every right to do the same in terms of what they're willing to part with the card for. So that Maze you got was exceptional for the grade, and I don't need, God bless PWCC, but I don't need PWCC to put a sticker on it for me to know that was for the grade a high level example.
Right. And I felt comfortable paying a premium for it because it was the copy that I wanted. And I don't put as much stock on what a PSA or a Beckett or CSG SGC says as much as I put on how much I love the card in that holder behind that plastic. And if I love that card, and the grade, listen, the grade probably saved me some money, because if it was a 4, but if it said 5, it probably would have cost me more, but I probably paid less than a 5 because I felt a very strong 4, as nice as many 6s I've seen, and nicer than some 6s based on centering. So yeah, back to Jay's comment, which started this particular discussion here, Joe. I agree. When the last part, I will stay above or below that line, being the comps or a series of comps, depending on what I believe about the card. And I would add how I feel about it, how much I like it. So thanks, Jay. Foul Five Ball says, I'm not a fan of flippers, and no flippers are just dealers, but I still do not like them. That's pretty hard, pretty line in the sand kind of comment from Jeremy, Foul Five Ball. And I got to think, though, that there must be some flippers that you do like, because not all flippers are created equal. Just like not all comps are created equal. There are some very nice flippers out there, people who flip cards for a living. T-Dot says flippers are day traders. That's a somewhat of a fair analogy, if you want to, or simile, maybe, if you want to go that way. Lapper, welcome to the show, Aaron. Better late than never. I agree. Good to see you. Says 13 likes. Come on, guys and gals, hit that like button. Thanks. Thank you, Aaron. Yeah, please hit that like button. Greatly. Oh, and subscribe and notifications and all these things that YouTubers ask for. Jeremy says, I think I saw Joe when he was doing that deal and didn't want to interrupt, but didn't see him again to say hello. Next time. Hopefully there's always a next time. Let's see here. T-Dot says, to your card show point, bought a Gretzky PSA 2 from the booth across from me in Edmonton, paid a premium, and the dealer says you can't hold the card on eBay. I think they were selling lots of them. That was, when was that show in Edmonton? Last April, maybe. So coming up on a year ago. I mean, the market's changed a bit since then, or maybe a lot even. But I hope you're enjoying still holding that one. Mark Santucci, Joe, wants to know, did you look at any Ricky Henderson or Mr. October cards, Reggie Jackson? Speaking of the A's.
Right. Not at Ontario. I'm reasonably well stocked in my own PC on those guys, and I greatly appreciate them. As do you. I know you're a big you picked up a Reggie rookie card somewhat recently, didn't you?
At the last year's national, I picked up I replaced I sold one and I had a seller's remorse. I replaced it at the national. Very happy with the replacement. Lower grade, nicer card.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, I think I'm pretty well stocked on those two guys, and yeah, didn't pick up anything. You know, always keep your eyes open. And it's funny, I mean, I only did 2 deals, but I'm sure if people were watching me, it probably would have looked like I was doing 50 deals, because I was. That's part of the fun, right? Kind of seeing what somebody is open to, if you can work out. Because I did have a few other trade chips there that I was kind of trying to negotiate with. There was a messy card that I was trying to get into a little bit with MC cards. You know, he's wheeling and dealing all kinds of stuff. But yeah, at one point, I think we got to a place where somebody was like, well, we could do the coin flip. And I was like, no, I'm not comfortable with the coin, you know, like to get it within, you know, it was $100 this way or $100 this way. And I'm like, no, I don't do coin flips for $100. Sorry. But yeah, no, I think right now more than anything, I'm kind of focused on just looking at Curry and you know, some of the Warriors that are out there. You know, Clay's a big PC. I picked up an order from Tag too that I had submitted a while back. I don't know. I know that, you know, you kind of were over there at the I don't know what to call it, the installation. It was quite a amazing setup that all you know, the brothers, the M&M brothers, had all put up there with the whole crew. I don't know, how was that for you to be there with the grading experience happening in real time?
I mean, it was awesome for me and for Tag in general. I think we had about 15 or so people there, maybe even 18.
Yep.
But we basically had a full grading operation set up, just like we do at the facility. We have more lines at the facility than we did there, but I think we had 2. And listen, I'm not part of the grading operation, so I wasn't back there working on it. But I know we had 2 image captures, we had 2 welders. So yeah, I think we had basically two lines set up, and it was awesome. I mean, we definitely made a statement and let people know that we're for real. Here's we got the equipment where we had and it was a nice setup. It was I thought it was really cool the way we displayed everything through transparent walls, everything. You could look right in and see what we were up to. And it was a big success for the company. So I thought it was pretty awesome. Are you happy with the cards that you got?
Yeah, no, I mean, I pulled a couple out here. I don't know, in the spirit of, you know, just showing a couple cards, but this one here is a Clay. It's a pink optic numbered to 25, and, you know, scored a 10. And I will say, you know, I grabbed a few cards, and you know, I would just say, you know, my order, and this really is not data worth reckoning other than just my own experience. I think I got about, you know, maybe 25% of the cards came back as 10s, or you know, in that range, maybe 20 even. So I'm showing a few 10s, but I certainly didn't find it to be easy grading, but I also didn't find it to be impossible grading to get. Here's a Curry purple ice card there. You know, again, another one that I was lucky enough to get a 10 on. But you know, then there were some others that, you know, like you were saying earlier, you know, surface imperfections, divots or pits. Here's a KD that ended up with a 7.5, and you know, I looked this over somewhat closely and didn't see a few things going on the surface that, you know, in hindsight, it's like once you look at the dig report, you see a little more what's going on. But you know, came back to 7.5. But these are PC cards, so I don't even really care. It's like they're so nice. The holders feel so good, and just the overall quality of the Tag aesthetic is super happy to get these in the PC.
I'm glad you like them so much, man, and I'm gonna agree. I love the aesthetic of the slab and everything else that we're doing there. Yeah, pretty cool. Thanks for showing. And I thought those cards, you picked out some cards that looked really nice in the transparent slab as well. So
yeah,
cool.
it's funny. JT, is that who it is? JC,
JC is a customer service guy.
Yeah, he was real helpful, and he was like, "Oh wow, you're because I kept having these color either optics or prisms, and he's like, oh he was very complimentary of my card tastes. Which
he's very passionate about the hobby, about tag, about sports cards. He's great for sure. All right. There's been a bit of a discussion in some comments here about flippers and just what it is. So let's go through some of that now. Jay asked the question of T-Dot and Foul Fireball. What's the definition of a flipper? If a card is held for how long and then sold, what makes someone a flipper? So Jay, just so you know, we had this discussion on an episode a few weeks ago where I asked the question, what is a flipper? And we spent a good hour that was actually the episode right after the Burbank show that we did. Right? That was the one. Yeah, with Matthew, who traded for the 52 Tops mantle at the Burbank show. That was the first hour of that episode.
Great show, by the way. Go back and watch that show. That was an awesome show. One of my favorites of all time.
Thank you. I thought I loved that episode too. The first hour, we didn't even talk about his mantle. The second hour was all about the mantle. But that first hour was some great, interesting discussion. At least I was interested in the discussion. And so we spent a lot of time talking about this, Jay. So we're kind of rehashing it here now, kind of, not as in depth, but I want to see if there's people here that weren't there to hear that or watch that with us last time. So T-Dot says, I'd say within 30 days for cards or within the hour. So I'm not sure what 30 days or an hour. I'm not sure what the distinction is there from T-Dot. Let's see. There's some more comments on this here. Here we go. Foul Fireball says a flipper to me sells 12 to 20 or more cards a year. Well, that's nothing. I probably sold 3,000 cards myself last year between different platforms and at card shows. So I don't know. Do you really mean 12 to 20? Jeremy is also named as Foul Fireball, because to me, that's nothing. Let's see. Aaron says definition of flipper being hashed out here. 12 to 20 cards a year. Jeremy is a huge flipper by your definition. I would be by that definition. Jay says same day flipper equals liquidity, but true. Price doesn't jump in a day unless it was underpriced. For context, I'm out of my league here. I do vintage, non-sports, a different pool. Jeremy says flippers are dealers. I consider Jeremy a dealer. I think he means flippers aren't dealers. I consider Jeremy a dealer, not a flipper. So that's the distinction there, right? Is what I kind of put out there on that episode with Matthew Rocker was, aren't dealers and flippers the same thing? But it was a question. And I think what came out of it was that dealers are more professional, I guess you could say. They set up at card shows. I mean, some flippers do too, but some flippers are just going booth to booth. But I think every dealer has a bit of flipper in them. I think they just may be more professional about it, and maybe more. I think some people associate flippers with maybe lower integrity or lower willingness to be fair, trying to just squeeze every penny out of everything, maybe not caring about the human aspect of the hobby, that sort of thing, not caring about, maybe trying to rip off other people, that kind of thing, which isn't going to help you in the short term or the long term. Whereas I think the dealer, when we think of a dealer, we think about someone who is just, they're paying expenses. They're doing a service to the hobby, like we were talking about before. So maybe flipper is just a slang term for, not the best dealers out there, for the lower end of the dealer pool. And then it just comes down to personal taste and how somebody rubs you. They rub you the right way, they rub you the wrong way. you know, that kind of thing. Anything you want to add on to that, Joe?
No, I mean, I think kind of just the connotation of flippers seems to be a little negative. So I think we're kind of searching for where is that boundary between somebody that's doing something with a little more just pure interest in, you know, crass commerce versus somebody that's maybe trying to facilitate a hobby experience that people are going to feel positive about. I always remember Eric Myers, our friend Eric, you know, works for PWCC. But you know, in his own wisdom, I think it was, you know, leave a little meat on the bone. You know, you don't have to get the maximum on every deal, because in the long run, if you're working with people and they're getting something that they're going to either, you know, feel good about down the road, that's gonna pay dividends for your reputation in the hobby and people wanting to return to work with you again. And I think that has value, right? Like it's a little transcendent of just the individual transaction. It's a little more reputational and maybe feeling good about, you know, spreading some goodwill in the hobby that I think can at times sorely need goodwill.
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. And what that then got my mind thinking of was the content aspect. You know, I think there's a lot of people who the hobby looks at as flippers who do content. They do card show vlogs and that kind of thing. And they show themselves going from booth to booth, maybe just doing deals, you know, buy here for 100, sell there for 120, buy here for 200, sell there for 300. And I think that some people who consume content in the hobby watch a lot of this and it rubs them the wrong way. I think it rubs a lot of people the right way. They get a ton of views, a lot of that type style of content. But I think then it comes down to you're watching these people do their negotiating. You're just listening to them speak. And then it comes down to like, is this the kind of person that you'd want to be friends with? Or is this the kind of person that you think would make you feel good about yourself when you were in their company? You know, are they someone who's going to make you want to spend time with them? Is this you know, do you like that guy? Do you like that girl? That kind of thing. And so I think that might be a part of why there's a negative sort of stereotype around the flipper within the hobby. All right. Hello to you, peeps. Good evening. And Sports Card 613, hello to you as well. Thanks, guys, for joining. Nick Martelli says, before the NHL trade deadline, I was able to pick up 2 awesome Patrick Kane cards, and we made a sweet deal because we both wore 88 for Kane when he played. Oh, so that's nice. You guys had that in common. And yeah, Patrick Kane, you know, will go down as one of the best American-born hockey players of all time. I don't know about the best, but he's like top 3 or 4 for sure. And just got traded to the New York Rangers after spending like 15 years in Chicago. So that was a big deal, a big name kind of moves for the first time ever. That was cool to see. Well, congrats, Nick, on that deal. Sounds like a good one. Tita says comps are like starting points for criminal offenses. They are mitigating and aggravating factors on sentence or grades. Yeah, that's a funny way to look at it, but I think that makes sense to me as well. Nick says, don't you find, though, that people in most cases plead ignorance of the comps and don't want to negotiate? Mind you, these are some of my experiences. I don't know. I think my experience is straight to the phone. What are the comps? And go from there. I mean, even at Burbank, for me, when I bought a stack of cards off of Frank Porco on Instagram, and bought this little stack right here from him. And I mean, listen, I had no issue with it, but every card that we went to, he was looking up the comp to come up with his price. But that's still, I'm okay with that. And then I had to decide, did I want to buy them? Well, I bought them. You want to see what I got?
Yeah. Was that the guy from, was he from like Tennessee or somewhere? Or
yeah, was there with his girlfriend?
Yeah, they were very nice people.
Yeah. Frank's a great guy.
And they were super happy to like see you, and then you guys got to like, go through some cards, and he seemed to have some good ones.
He had a lot. It was all hockey, and it was all like rare 90s insert stuff. So I love these cards. I can't believe these cards don't get more love, and I got them for, you know, pretty cheap overall. But I'll show you guys. These are from 97 Metal Hockey, and they are called Ice Carvings Superpower. So I'll just take that off for a second. So I don't know if you guys in the chat have seen I know some of you have, but I'll show you the Sergei Fedorov that I picked up. So look at this card, but they are so shiny. You got the color picture of him in his red uniform, but then you got that background picture. This is not acetate. It's also embossed. Like I picked up 4 of them. Jaromir Jagr, Pavel Bure, Alexander McGillney, and Sergei Fedorov. Not a North American among them, but 4 amazing players. And I just think these cards are beautiful. Like they're just beautiful. And they're rare. You don't see them often.
97 inserts. 97. I mean, you think about basketball and then, got the hockey. Gee whiz.
Like, look at the color in the blues. Like, it's just, oh.
And those, are they numbered or they're just straight inserts? Straight inserts.
There's no number, but there's even like, you look at Fedorov's face and the ice carving above.
Yeah.
It's got depth to it. Like it's not just a flat image. So Upper Deck just re-released ice carvings for the first time since 97, earlier, like when the last Skybox Metal Universe came out. I forget when that was, but they made it an acetate card. Different. I like that they brought it back, but it's not nearly as nice as these ones. These ones are just stunning. I love them. So I got those 4 from Frank. Also from the same set is a Lethal Weapon superhero of Jagr, which is, these are nice too, but the ice carvings to me are just on another level, like a whole other level. And then speaking of Jagr, I picked up the Sixth Sense Wizards. This is numbered on the back out of 100, right down there. But these are cool because this is like this card has like 3 different parallels, and this is the toughest one. You can see it's got some of that almost seismic kind of effect in it there. Super cool card. And then I picked up, this was a cheaper insert, but a Gretzky Fire on Ice, Joe. Like this card is one of those cards where hold one in hand and just kind of play with it under the light like this, and you're going to see so many cool things in this card, just in all 4 different kind of quadrants of the background. And then 2 more guys. This is a Jagr Ice Champions. This is from, I don't even know, 90 something. I can't read it. It's too small. Numbered out of 100 on the back, right in the bottom corner there. Anyway, you can see the numbering. But this it's got acetate, so you can kind of see through parts of it. But really rare card from Upper Deck Ice from, I think it's 97. And it's then
I was just gonna say, it's funny you mentioned, what the difference can be for certain cards in person. And I was one of those collectors for many years that was kind of working just in a more siloed state of eBay with flat images. So going to a showroom and kind of bouncing around and looking at how certain cards present, it's really quite a treat. And it oftentimes, things emerge in your collecting interests where you may never have even been interested in a particular card, and then you see it in person and it's like, oh my God, I've got to have that card, or I've got to collect that whole set.
Yeah. You can't see everything about a card from an image on your phone or your computer screen. So you're right. Being at a show, picking it up, holding it under the light, especially, vintage, you don't necessarily need to do that except to inspect condition, really. But for some of these 90s inserts and modern day inserts, you want to get a good look at them. The last rare one I picked up from Frank was this Gretzky. It's numbered out of 100, and it's the Specialists. So it's pretty cool. It's a foil card. Not my favorite, but I like that it's die cut, and just another rare Gretzky insert from the 90s for my collection. So I was happy to grab that. So that's what I grabbed off of Frank there, and he's a good guy to deal with. So let's go to some more comments, Joe.
Yep.
Lapper says, that's what I am, a dealer, not a flipper. There you go. Perfect, right? I can get behind that. Peep says flippers are for snorkeling. Yeah, that I cannot argue with at all. Well said, Peeps. Tita says card values have no emotion for many. Not me. I have a lot of sentimental and nostalgic value built into a lot of my cards. And if anyone is like coming after one of those cards of mine, you're probably not going to be able to buy it because I'll want too much for it. Aaron says, I love the whole discussion on flippers versus dealers. Be kind, have fun, and do what you like to do. It's really simple. And it really is as simple as that. Let people be. Let them be. If you don't like them, that's fine. But you don't need to attack people. Like, there's a lot of attacking that happens in our hobby and in other industries as well. Listen, everyone will be who they are, but at the end of the day, it's I think you sleep easier at night if you're just nice. If you're just nice. Tita says, I buy cards as store of value. That's fair. Jay says, a dealer has to sell cards, i.e. flip some cards to pass along to better homes. I like that. I give away cards to expand interest at times. Sometimes the banter is better than the profit. Flipping is not bad per se. Totally agree, Jay. Totally agree. Aaron says, Lapper says, Jeremy is tough negotiator. He has an attachment to the card premium on a lot of cards. I think what you're saying is what I just said a second ago. I have a lot of sentimental and nostalgic value built into some of my cards. And yeah, those ones I'm going to be a tough negotiator on for sure. Bobby, good to see you, Bobby, says, those who do things that others won't will have things that many don't. Built an awesome collection by buying and selling over 25 years. My collection through flipping selling is considered free. And that's why I started setting up a card shows the first time as well. Because, well, the main reason was I wanted a place to put my butt down. I wanted to be able to sit down and put my bag down somewhere and just have a home base. That was the first reason. The second reason was I realized very quickly after being given one showcase at a friend's booth in 2005, I think it was, in exchange for me babysitting his booth so he could walk around, was like, wait a second, I can put some cards in this showcase and I can get money for them that I can then spend on new cards. And maybe I can buy cards at good value and sell them at a higher price, make some money and put that into new cards and fund the collection. Pretty much exactly what Bobby is saying here. And I've done a similar thing over the past 20 years. A lot of the stuff in my collection is just a product of trading and buying, selling. Jay says, how about a change of topic? Will you go to more or less shows this year compared to last year? Irrespective of being a dealer or collector, I will go to less shows this year, but I'm not sure why. I think it'll be very similar. It'll probably be more, well, most likely be more for me because of my involvement with tag grading and representing tag at shows. But without that, it would probably be very similar, if not maybe one or two more. I'd probably get to, well, the Burbank show is on my calendar now, and I want to get to a Dallas show still. How about you, Joe? What about you? More shows this year than last or less?
Well, I don't go to many shows, so probably about the same. I mean, maybe 2, 3. I mean, I'm pretty modest and, my means to travel and going out. So I just try and target a few that make sense and that I know, human beings that I, want to meet and connect with will be there. So yeah, 2 or 3 and hopefully big ones. I'm looking forward to the Mint. I mean, I'm curious, since we were both there last year, it certainly was well attended last year, but do you remember what the buzz was afterwards and how many people sort of expressed a little, FOMO after the fact of like, oh, I wish I'd gone, or I'm just curious if it's going to be kind of off the hook busy this year, or what the comparison is going to be to last year. Do you have any ideas?
I just know that they're really looking to get it out there that this is not a B2B conference. This is meant to be a card show, but they're calling it a marketplace. I like that. It sounds a little bit classier.
Yep.
So I like that it's going to be, and it is. I mean, this thing's carpeted. It might be the only fully carpeted card show that I know of. I know there was one a couple of years ago in Wisconsin. The Wisconsin Dells show was carpeted, and I was really like envious of that. But I think, and carpeting is so important at a card show. If you don't know, I mean, my feet and knees and all that and I wear, what are the shoes we wear again? Hokas.
Yeah.
I wear Hokas to card shows, and they couldn't even save me at the card. Yeah. The Bondis. I have the same ones in different color. They couldn't even save me from the Burbank show. That was a hard concrete floor. But aside from aside from the Mint Collective being a carpeted card show or the marketplace, yeah, I think it's going to be a lot more square footage of vendor space. So that's great. And they really took the feedback they got last time in planning it this year. So, and that's what I've been told from people at IMG and Collectable, who are two of the partners in the event. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to, I'll be there representing Tag and spending a lot of my time at the Tag booth, but I will also be, cruising the floor and checking it out and saying hi to people and that kind of thing. So I can't wait. But thanks for that, Jay. Jeremy says, I saw those cards when you picked them up. To me, Jeremy, nice cards. Thank you, Jeremy. Aaron says, that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm not concerned with what people want to label me. I think everyone will say I'm a pretty nice guy, and that's most important. Yeah, right? Who cares if someone calls you a dealer, or a flipper, or a vendor, or a LCS owner, whatever it is. I mean, as long as you do it with integrity and you're nice to everybody, I'm good. You're good with me. That's for darn sure. Peeps wants to know, are either of you speculating on the upcoming Generational Fanatics set drop? Peeps, I don't know. I do not know what to make of that, or I have not thought about it too much. So I'm going to say no. I'm not speculating it. Are you, Peeps? And if you are, what do you think it might be? Joe, do you know what this is about? And are you speculating on it at all?
No, I mean, I think we're all speculating on what was discussed in the first show tonight, which was, the promise that sort of the Topps Fanatics brand has made that something earth-shattering is about to happen. But I really don't know enough about, the contemporary market in that area. I tend to mostly just collect modern basketball. So right now, at least, what's intriguing to me, though, is the potential of Topps Chrome basketball being brought in sooner than later. And I think that would create a lot of interest in my collecting and others too. You mentioned that, with the legacy of the LeBrons, the Kobes, if and when Topps Chrome gets reintroduced, I think that's going to be a fantastic moment for collector interest.
Yeah, I'm excited for there to be Topps Chrome basketball and football, and whatever else they some of those like Topps Heritage type of things. But I think what Peeps is getting at specifically, in case anyone isn't aware, is that Topps has said that there will be an upcoming release that will be like something, I forget I forget the exact wording they use, but something like, we've never seen it before. It's going to knock our socks off. Not that those are their words. I wasn't there to hear it, but something that is going to be something that we haven't seen in a generation, or something to that effect. And I do not know what it's going to be, but we'll see. Well, I'm happy to sit back and wait for it, and let everyone else do the speculating, and I'll listen on intently. Here's a really good question from T. What's your favorite sports team onesie? Because I spend a lot of time thinking about this myself, and I can't believe it's never come up on the show before. I don't know, T. There's so many onesies that I could name here. I'm not sure.
How was the birthday party today, by the way?
Oh, it was very nice. Thank you.
Speaking of onesies.
Thank you. It was yes, everybody. It was my daughter's 6th birthday party today. It was my son so my daughter turns 6 on Tuesday. My son actually turned 4 today, but it was my daughter's party today, and so my son, we kind of double happy birthdays, sang it to both of them, but it was at my daughter's where she takes dance lessons. Nice. So it was all the girls from her class. So it was like 13 girls and my son, and he was in heaven. Let me tell you, he loved it. He's a little stud, my little guy. But hey, he just turned 4, so I can call him that, right? It was a lot of fun though. It was fun to watch my daughter and all of her friends dance at the dance studio, and they had an obstacle course and had cake, and yeah, it was a couple hours. It was nice. Nice.
Does she do ballet?
She does, yeah. She does ballet. I think she does hip hop. They do a couple of different styles, and yeah, she likes it. And the kids had fun. The kids that don't do dance, there were a lot of the kids that were there don't do dance, I don't think, but they all kind of followed along and had a good time. It was a good time. It was a good time for a 6-year-old birthday party for sure.
If I was going to answer T-Dot's question, I think I'm not a Bengals fan, although I do like Joe Burrow. I'd probably go with the Bengals onesie, like the tiger look.
The tiger look. Back to the onesie. There we go.
Yeah.
There we go. Nick here says, I think a lot of FOMO might drive in the sales unless they hit a real grand slam with it. Yeah, maybe the pre-sales, but I think they're insinuating that they've got some innovation or some innovative idea or concept that hasn't happened before. Now, they did talk about what we talked about in the last show with Al was the follow back. There can be a follow big, like, you might pull a redemption card where the player will follow you back on Twitter and or Instagram. That's pretty cool. And then Al also reported in that they're going to be getting like the bases from the baseball diamond. And if a player has his first base hit, that first base is going to be put into that player's cards. That's pretty cool. But I think there's something else, another innovative, creative idea that they have that is not those other two things. That is what they're talking about and that a lot of people are speculating on right now. Rome, haven't seen you for a bit. Welcome. Says, I've only been to the Canadian Expo, which is called the Sport Card Expo, which is in Toronto. They also do an event in Edmonton. What would the 3 things that would jump out if I went to the National in Chicago? Well, number 1, the size. Number 2, the variety of cards. Number 3, the corporate section is like a whole other thing. It's extremely impressive. I mean, I think some of these companies are spending $250,000 and up on their installations at these events. Just the amount of people. I mean, the amount of people and really the breadth of selection. It's been said, and it's not true, that you can find anything at the National. Well, that is far from true. You cannot find anything at the National. Not anymore. Maybe up until the mid-90s you could, even the late 90s, but now you can't. There's just too much stuff out there. So, and then Jay says, for Topps announcement, in jest, is Topps releasing an inventor autograph patch set? If so, I'm game. Otherwise, if just modern sports, then same as before, and I'm out. Yeah, but that's just it, Jay. There's something. They're creating hype. They've created hype. Now it's like, is it going to be worth the hype, or were they kind of over promising, and will it underdeliver the expectations of the hobby? Well, only time will tell on that, really. Glenn here from Northern Light says, just wait for the fingerprint cards featuring a player's fingerprint. Yeah, I've thought about that before. Like, that to me is another identifier, like a signature, Next thing is going to be, here's the player's retina scan. Like, what's next? I mean, I don't think we're going to be getting retina scans, maybe not fingerprints, but hey, you never know. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not a fingerprint expert or retina, but I guess the thing, I think it was our friend Tim from Slabstrong mentioned, and you talked about it in the last show, the kind of autographs of players that maybe had played baseball. So with the Topps brand being specific to baseball, like Tom Brady was drafted by the Expos. I guess Tom Brady was quite a good catcher at one point in his high school days. And, so they can produce that and have an autograph with him and, a number of other players. I know, Kyler Murray was drafted by the A's and ended up going into football, and, number of other players that did both. So I don't know if that's what's being referred to. I think Neo, I listened a tiny bit to Neo's show the other day, and he was sort of speculating that maybe it could be licensing for LeBron and or Michael Jordan, autos. But I don't know if that's,
that's not it. Certainly that's not going to be it. I mean, I don't mean to, but I just,
Yeah,
I
well,
99% would think that's not the case, but
he was also the one he mentioned too, the Topps Chrome thing, which I'd heard a couple other people talking about, that maybe somehow or another Fanatics is buying the rights to the Topps Chrome sooner than the deal that's still 2 years off, right? So that they could cut to the chase and, maybe capitalize with the current market, and not let too much more time pass before they start doing these things that everybody's clearly looking forward to. But who knows? I mean, I guess that's, one of the exciting things about being in the hobby is, and if it lands flat and all of us are, like, that's what they were, wanting us to be excited about, we'll see.
yeah,
But
that's my concern, is that that's how it's going to end up. Because if it is, I mean, that second offering from Neo, that it might be Topps Chrome Baseball, I could see that being it. But I can also see that not satisfying the hype to which is, I feel, has been built up since last weekend about this mystery announcement. If that's all it is, I don't think I think that people are going to be a little bit disappointed that it's not something way more earth-shattering than just bringing back that brand. But the word generational does fit, because it's likely been that long since we've seen it, I guess. I mean, not for baseball, but for basketball, obviously. So, yeah. Well, Bobby here says generational is a strong word used in marketing by companies in their opinion, which rarely comes to fruition to the collectors. Yeah, I mean, I think that's exactly what may happen in this particular specific instance. I hope it doesn't. I'd like, for once, the result to be like, wow, yeah, you guys wowed us. You I don't want to say under promised and over delivered, but you made some sort of promise and you delivered on it. And that would be pretty cool. This is going to be the time that, or one of the times that actually is the case. So we'll see. Nick says, I wonder if they'll have redemptions for game used gear, considering Fanatics sells mem as well. I think that's a logical place to go.
That's smart.
Is that earth shattering? Because it's been talked about. It's been talked about on this show before. I'm sure people have had this idea around the hobby for years now, like at least 10 years. So I don't think it's an earth shattering idea. I'm expecting an idea that I haven't thought of yet. That's kind of where what I feel like the hype is built up to, but I could easily be wrong on that. T-Dot says, as a purist collector, I hope Gretzky and Jordan autos glut the market. Won't happen. Those guys are not going to glut the market with their autos. Willie T says, PSA 10 OJ Simpson fingerprint card set sets new record. T-Dot says, where are the isotoners from the OJ trial? Peep said, what Panini brands will you guys have the most regard to when Panini is gone? Ooh, that's a good question. That's a good question. Meaning, what will they be remembered for most? Well, that's easy. That is Prism. They will be remembered most for Prism and National Treasures. I'm pretty comfortable with that statement. I mean, maybe I'm forgetting something. I think that's what they'll be most remembered for. But what will you guys have the most regard for when Panini is gone, Joe? I mean, you know Panini brands better than I do. So which brand will you have the most regard for when Panini, and this assumes Panini and its brands will be gone, which may not be the case.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think it sort of invites the question, which of those brands might Fanatics want to somehow
salvage,
take over and not let go the way of oblivion. I've always liked Immaculate. Yeah. I think it's a clean card. I think they do some real nice design schemes. They have cool parallels. They bring in good, game use mem stuff, at least, and historically, I don't know where they're at with that now, with all the challenges currently with game worn stuff with players. But yeah, I like the Immaculate. Flawless is pretty nice too, a little plain. I've never been a huge, even though despite the Curry is the National Treasures, I've never been a big National Treasures person. But I would kind of just say, if I was going to point to one thing in the Panini line that I might miss, it might be immaculate.
Yeah, I agree. So I want to just go to Peep's comment here where he says, why Prism and not optic rated rookie? So two things, Peeps. First, you asked what I took as two different questions. The first one was, what will they be remembered for most? That was the second one, but to me, I answered it first. I believe the hobby will remember them most for National Treasures and Prism. Do I think those are their two best brands? Hell no. No, I don't. So then your second question was what will you have the most regard for? And that's where I'm with you, Peeps. I think the optic rated rookie is a nicer card than Prism. So I will look back at that with greater adoration than Prism. And I'm with Joe. Immaculate and Flawless. I prefer both those brands to National Treasures, but I don't think the hobby's going to remember them as fondly as they will National. I don't think they'll remember Immaculate and Flawless, at least not in today's state of the hobby, as much as they will National Treasures. So, do I agree with that? No, not to my eyes taste, but I think that's what will be remembered as Prism and NT. So I'm pretty certain of that. Like, I saw somewhere today, I don't remember where someone said that Prism was referred to as the most iconic brand of sports cards. It almost made me like, ugh, like really? Prism is the most iconic brand of sports cards? I can't tell it apart year to year. Like it looks the same, almost the same every single year. I like the golds. They do shine. That gold is a beautiful color on the golds, but they're out of 10. They're hard to buy. They're very expensive. I'm not gonna be lusting for a Luka or a Zion Prism rookie in any time soon, ever again, probably. But a nice Immaculate or a nice Flawless. I mean, that's when I look at those cards, they appeal to me way more than even National Treasures. Never mind Prism. But for a simple 35-point card, without any autos or patches or memorabilia, yeah, like Donruss Optic, I think is way nicer. If I had to choose a Luka rookie, and I've owned a Prism before, I don't at this time. I have no interest in getting a Luka Prism, silver or regular. But the Optic, if I want a Luka rookie down the road, it might be the Optic. Joe, respond?
Yeah, I agree with I think especially with the price point, there's a lot of Optic color that I lean towards more than Prism. Seems like a cleaner design, a little closer actually, and it's sort of aesthetics to the old Topps Chrome line, which I think people are missing, and from year to year seem to be just a pretty featured the photograph and featured less busy, so the Prism's a little busy for my eye, and yeah, I'm trying to think of, maybe something a little wild cardish. I mean, I don't think many of us are able to afford Eminence, but I do have a few Eminence cards, and that's extremely high end. And if you've ever held an Eminence card in hand, I mean, they are pretty amazing cards. I don't know, if I'll miss them per se. I don't know what's going to happen to them, but do you own any Eminence cards?
I don't. I have Upper Deck. In hockey, Upper Deck Black is a similar looking product, and I do have a couple cards from there.
Yeah.
I want to go. Okay, we'll just go in order here. T-Dot says, I want a piece of the white Ford Bronco in a card. Yeah, that'd be kind of cool. Peeps says, I think rated rookies history is maybe a scales tilter. Agree with that. Maybe. And again, that's why I qualified it earlier by saying, in today's hobby mindset, I think it's Prism and NT, but down the road, that could easily change. It's already changed once. For Prism went from being, bottom of the barrel to a very important product. It could go back to bottom of the barrel eventually. Is definitely possible. Jay says, only thing interesting from Topps is a redemption auto card where you meet the player, get the autograph, and each auto is of a Hall of Famer from different sports, distributed in any sports card pack. I would buy those packs. Yeah, that would be a lot of fun. Northern Light says, I think the nicest set in the entire card market are National Treasures Racing, which feature, et cetera, et cetera. It's a Panini product. So listen, one thing I want to go back to National Treasures is that within National Treasures, there are some amazingly beautiful cards. It's not like I don't like any of them, or I think that all immaculates and all flawless cards are better than all NT cards. That's not the case. I have some amazing cards in my collection are from 2013 National Treasures Hockey, the only year they made it. And so, I mean, I went hard off after a couple sets within that product, and I still have them to this day. I've had them since, it came out in 2014, and I love it. I love those cards. So when I say I prefer flawless and immaculate to NT, I'm really thinking about the rookie cards, and I'm really thinking about the last 5 years, just to clarify those comments from a little bit earlier. And you bet, peeps. Good question. Thank you for them. Nick says Nobility is a set they did for soccer, and they are really gorgeous cards. Haven't heard of it, but I'll check them out, Nick. Thanks for that. And Northern Light says, will Panini continue to produce them or add to their stable with other product to remain alive? Great question. I think the question has to be answered first, though, is what will Fanatics do with Panini, i.e. acquire Panini or acquire a portion of Panini or acquire brands from Panini, or will they do nothing with any of Panini brands or the company itself? Depending on the answer. So then you can go in two different directions. If they buy Panini, we're going to see Prism and NT and Flawless and Immaculate. If they license those brands from Panini, we're going to see those brands again. If they do nothing with Panini and their brands, I think they're going to go to the Topps brands and apply them to basketball and football. And I think the hobby would be happy with that. And they'll add some innovation as well. They're not just going to only do the brands that they do in baseball or have historically done in basketball and football. They'll add some new stuff as well and put their own, the Fanatic stamp on the Topps brand. Yep. All right. Let's wrap it up, Joe.
Okay. Yeah, one last one I was thinking of was Noir. I like the Noir line as well. I think that those are
similar to Eminence, though, with the black background.
Yeah, but not quite as the high end. I mean, Eminence, it's like a ridiculous break. You can pretty much, but at least Noir, you can find those and get some decent, singles.
Well, Peep says Panini will still have some major brands in soccer markets if they remain, including Rated Rookie. Yeah. I mean, they're not going to go out of business, and they can just do unlicensed if they choose to. They have some options, but they're definitely not going to be the same unless they're acquired or like those options. Panini's not going to be the same company. At least Panini America will be a lot different. Glenn, you're more than welcome. Thanks for joining the chat and the show, the lives. It's always fun to get people engaged in the chat, which we seem to have good, consistent level of engagement over the last 3 years now. We're all. I don't want to get ahead of myself. We will have the 3-year anniversary of Sports Cards Live in April. We're not there yet, guys. We're not there yet. Mentioned it earlier. If you came in late, you can, and listen, no pressure. I'm not going to hard sell this stuff, but if you want, you can go to the shop tab on the Sports Cards Live channel. I think it's called Shop, Store, something like that. And there's no a little Sports Cards Live store with like 6 different items you can buy, 4 t-shirts, 2 coffee mugs, the fancy mug and the fancier mug. I mean, they're fancy, but I warn you, the shipping is going to be almost expensive as the item itself. So hopefully that doesn't discourage everybody. But if you're interested, check them out on the YouTube channel. Subscribe, like, notifications, the rigmarole there. Appreciate everybody tuning in. We're coming up on about 3.5 hours, over 3.5 hours of live streaming tonight, Joe, between 2 guests.
You're just getting started. You're just getting started this weekend, right? You've got like 3 or 4 more coming up.
2 shows tomorrow, guys. 2 shows tomorrow, 7 o'clock Eastern, Collectable Live. My guest is Ryan Friedman. He is the founder of auctionreport.com. We're going to talk about auctions and a couple of fun questions there. The one that I thought of even after I met the guy was, I want to what are the auction house's responsibility, if any, to control the flow at which PSA 10 Michael Jordans hit the market? I have my feelings on that. I'll share them tomorrow. But that's 7 o'clock Eastern, and then 9:30 Eastern tomorrow, covering live the PWCC Hockey Weekly Auction with both fellas from the Hockey Cards Gong Show, Josh Madigan, who's my regular co-host, and we're bringing on a special guest, his partner on the Gong Show, Troy Iverson, will be joining. So that'll be a lot of fun, guys. More content tomorrow. Well, what will we do? About 3 hours, 3 more hours of content tomorrow. So please join us then. So thank you, Eric. Appreciate that. Thank you, Mark. Appreciate the 5 out of 5. Jeremy says, is the shop in Canada? Sorry, what shop are we talking about? Oh, no, the shop is on the YouTube channel. It's just like it's on the YouTube channel, Jeremy. It's I showed it earlier. It looks like this. You can buy a shirt with my face on it for you hardcores, but we've got 2 t-shirts, the basic and the comfort, which is just more expensive, and then the 2 mugs. So each one, the basic comes with my face or without it. If you want to be that bold and put another man's face on your shirt, here's your chance. But if you just want a little SCL brand t-shirt, there you go. You've got 2 options, the basic and the comfort. The guy who works for this company said he prefers the comfort, but I seem to like the length on the basic. So we'll see. I've got one of each coming as a sample and a coffee mug as well. I have the fancy mug coming. The fancier, I don't know, if you like a color on the inside of your mug, you can grab that one or any. But you got to name the products, Joe. So I'm like, oh, it's a fancy mug. Oh, it's a fancier mug. Why? Because it's $2 more. Anyway, that you can get to this through the Sports Cards Live YouTube channel. Name, thank you so much. See you tomorrow on the PWCC Weekly Show. Bobby, thank you. Says great after hours. Thanks, Joe and Jeremy. One last thing is on generational, that word should only be referenced after the fact, not so much present or prior. Yeah, that makes sense to me. How do you know? How do you know it's going to stand up for a generation, right? All right, Bobby, good one. Okay, guys, and with that, hope to see you all tomorrow back on the channel. If not, have a great week. We'll see you. Oh, no Sports Cards Live next Saturday, guys. I have personal obligation, so I won't be doing a Saturday show. Maybe a Friday, we'll see, but definitely back on Sunday for Collectable Live and PWCC. Thank you, Aaron. Joe, say goodbye.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Jeremy. Had a lot of fun. Everybody have good health, and maybe see you in real time.
IRL, as they call it, IRL, in real life. Someone threw that at me. Didn't even say in real life. Just said, yeah, it's someone I know IRL. I'm like, I knew what it was, so I didn't stump me, but it was just kind of funny. I'd never had anyone use it in it's like saying LOL, which I do sometimes. Anyway, okay. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Joe. Hang tight.
Yep.
Download Veriswap and Center Stage apps on the App Store, guys. Thank you, Yankees fan. Appreciate it. Officially now, the episode